Have you ever been a handful of weeks into your school year and you've just casually flipped through to the end of your math book only to look at the problems and realize with a sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach that the work that's at the end of the school year is actually work that your child could already do easily, even though the curriculum isn't planning on introducing it or teaching these skills for months? Somehow you realize that your child already can do the work. What do you do? Hi, I am Rachel from 7 and All, and in today's video I am going to be talking about how do you know when to skip a level or to skip ahead with gifted students or just with advanced students in your homeschool. Now, it is not a good feeling when the curriculum that you have spent money on, that you've researched, that you've put time into, it's not a good feeling when you realize that, oh, my child already knows what this curriculum is trying to teach. I seem to have maybe bought them the wrong level. It's not a good feeling, but I want to reassure you that this is actually very, very normal, especially when you're teaching students who fall on the range of giftedness or students who are very advanced. Sometimes these students really do make unpredictable leaps in their skill and in their development, they're unpredictable means you can't predict them. You didn't know it was coming. So that curriculum that was perfectly fine and perfectly appropriate when you bought it, it's very possible that a month later you might realize that your child actually has all of the knowledge that it needs and they're beyond the level of the curriculum already. This happens. So I'm going to talk about how to recognize when this is happening and a few of your options for dealing with it, some do's and don'ts, and just some considerations. And I'm hoping to give you some ideas of how to handle this in your own homeschool, but also to help you feel and know that you are not alone if you are facing these kind of situations. So you realize that the schoolwork that your child is doing is actually too easy for them. What do you do? First of all, I should point out that very, very common homeschool advice will say, oh, it's okay to give your kid an easy year. It's okay for them to be working at a level that's lower than what they really could handle. Just let them have an easy year, and then presumably they're going to be enjoying their schoolwork so much because it's so easy and it's therefore very enjoyable for them. However, it really needs to be acknowledged that for gifted students and even for advanced students, it's not really actually enjoyable to do work that's too easy. In fact, it just feels like you're wasting my time. It feels kind of like an insult. So I don't think that we should just have a blanket expectation that kids like to do work that's below their level and too easy for them, because actually there will be quite a few kids that don't appreciate that don't appreciate working below their level. And you might be having a child who's not responding well to having work that's below their level. In addition, there's also the issue that an easy year, I accidentally bought a level that's too low for them this year, we can adjust it next year. Actually, an easy year could still end up snowballing, and you could still end up with next year, the curriculum's still going to be at the wrong level because your child might be able to learn and absorb knowledge and grow in skill whether or not the curriculum is teaching them those skills. Some of these kids really do just learn incredibly fast, learn from their surroundings, learn practically by osmosis. So just because you have the wrong level one year doesn't mean, oh, just leave it alone, I can get the right level the next year, because you might end up making the same mistake all over again. So I'm not one to say just totally leave it alone, don't address it, let schoolwork be easy, it'll be fine, they'll grow out of it. I do think we need to put a little bit more intention and action into it than that, but also the right answer is not always skipping to the next level. So let's keep talking about this. So sometimes you will just need to throw in the towel on this level of the curriculum and jump up to the entire next level. But other times you won't need to make as dramatic of a change, and you'll be able to simply adjust the pace of the curriculum, move through a little faster, And how will you know which route to take when? Really, the answer is going to come with experience. The more experience that you have working with your gifted child, working with your advanced student, with more experience, you'll be able to kind of make that call a little bit more accurately. You'll be able to get a better feel for what you need to do. But I'll give you a couple of do's and don'ts and a couple of things to consider as you make that choice, and hopefully the right choice that fits your child and their situation. First of all, as far as how to know in the first place if they're working at the wrong level, if your child gets every answer right all the time, if your child usually barely needs to be taught the lesson and can just go ahead and do the practice work or the application work without being taught the lesson, they're probably working on the wrong level. Actually, as teachers, both students, both our children and ourselves can sometimes get mixed up and think that, oh, the goal of doing our schoolwork is for them to easily understand everything they're taught and for them to get every question right 100% of the time. And actually, if that's what's happening, the schoolwork you're teaching is probably actually too easy for them and they probably already know it. That's just something to keep in mind when choosing the right level or assessing if your child is at the right level in the first place. When learning, when doing schoolwork, there should be at least some small element of challenge in there. There should be some small element of your child doesn't already know everything that they're being taught. They should be having an opportunity to be challenged to learn new things and push their own skills to the next level. So that's kind of my first layer of assessing it is, are they getting everything right all the time? Do they ever need to actually be taught the lessons, or do they just seem to already know the concepts being taught in the curriculum? Because if they already know everything, then chances are the level they're working at is too low, and you very well might want to look at moving on to the next level. Now, when you think about skipping a level, skipping on to the next book, a lot of people worry about gaps. They worry that if they don't complete the whole level of this book, there will be a gap that they'll run up into somewhere in the next level, a gap in knowledge or a gap in skill. And here's where I would say, especially with working with these gifted and advanced learners, do not worry about hypothetical gaps. Just don't worry about them. Don't worry about the hypothetical gaps. If you notice that your child has an actual gap, if you see evidence of a gap, address that gap. But don't worry about the gaps that could potentially exist, but you don't see any evidence of them actually existing. For many gifted learners, they don't actually need education to be scaffolded as much as more typical learners do. They actually tend to jump over those gaps pretty well, make the connections themselves. They don't need to be taught every single connection ever. So that's something to keep in mind of that parents can really worry about, oh, I don't want to skip any levels because of gaps. Well, if there is an actual gap, teach the info to fill that gap, but don't worry about hypothetical or imaginary gaps. Next point. A do for you is do be aware of the impact of early graduation. If you're considering having your child starting early in a grade or skipping grades to go on to the next grade. There can be some downsides to graduating early. I can say this, I graduated at age 16 myself, went to college at 17, had a fantastic time. I loved academics, I loved college, met my husband on my first day of college as a brand new 17-year-old. So there can be some downsides if your child is having to leave your home or be on their own or be graduated or be off in career and college at a younger age than typical. So not every parent wants their child to necessarily skip a grade and graduate early. However, as a lifelong homeschooler, I would say the level of work that your child is doing need not determine what grade they are officially in. I would have zero problem with having a kindergartner who is doing first and second grade work in math and reading. Zero problem. That doesn't mean they have to be bumped up to first and second grade. That just means they're a kindergartner who's working at their own natural level. They're doing the work that they can do. So that's what I would say. You don't necessarily, just because a child is advanced, that doesn't mean you have to move them up officially in grades. but you can move up their work to the level that they can do and keep them in the same grade. Perks of homeschooling. And my next point is, seriously, don't fight the natural pace of learning. Your child's natural pace of learning, in all likelihood, it might not match the prescribed pace from the curriculum. And that's totally fine. That's just the reality of what's going to happen with gifted and advanced learners. They might be moving a lot faster. So don't try to fight that. Don't try to go back, wait, no, you were supposed to spend 5 lessons learning this concept, not just 1 lesson. Don't try to fight that. Just roll with it, go with it. And it's going to depend a little bit on your child's personality. Some children will be more willing to spend more time on practice and review, even if they don't need it. Other children might fight you tooth and nail if you try to do practice and review on subjects that they have already mastered. It depends on kind of personality and temperament in that area, but as a parent, do be aware of the pace that your child is learning at and don't try to fight it. I'm going to give you a real life example right now on how I might make a decision on how to move ahead or whether to move ahead and skip forward to the next level of a curriculum. So here's my example. I have a kindergartner right now, a 5-year-old boy. My 5-year-old kindergartner is doing first grade level math right now. He is actually using 2 first grade math curriculums plus a handful of other math resources because he gobbles up math. So math numbers are a great love of his right now. And as I'm doing math with him, it's gradually becoming more and more apparent that he's moving faster than any of his curriculums are moving. The kind of word problem he's being given in his math, you see, alpha is so-and-so baked 2 pies and so-and-so baked 4 pies. So how many pies did these 2 people bake all together? And the answer is 6. So that's the kind of word problem he's getting in his math. But then the kind of word problem he's making up randomly just in conversation is, hey mama, if there were 20 gummy bears in a bag and we put 3 bags of gummy bears on a cake, how many gummy bears would there be on that cake? And I'm like, I don't know, you tell me. And he tells me 60 gummy bears. So you can tell that the magnitude of difficulty between the word problems from his curriculum and the word problems that he's just making up randomly in his free time is actually very different. And he is constantly making up math problems. It's one of his great hobbies right now. So it's becoming clear to me that he is progressing faster than his curriculums are. He's doing math in his head that's significantly more challenging than the math problems that he's doing on paper with his worksheets in math. Now, should I bump him up to 2nd grade math, or what should I do? Here's the decision I'm making and the factors that contribute to it. At this point, I am not planning to skip him ahead into 2nd grade math. There's a few factors for this. One is just his age and a few things that I think are affected by his age. He's 5 years old. He sometimes writes 7s backwards. He sometimes writes 3s backwards. He's gradually doing it less and less, but it still happens. That's very developmentally normal for a 5-year-old. It's something that age is going to help, but that's something that does make me hesitate to move forward in math too quickly while he's still getting the hang of writing numbers in the correct direction every single time. He also sometimes makes silly mistakes. He can do a lot of math in his head. He's got a lot of addition and subtraction facts memorized, but he does make mistakes. He does make careless mistakes once in a while. He goes one number in the wrong direction, says 11 instead of 12, or whatever it is. So he does make those quick, careless mistakes. That's also something that's going to improve as he gets a little bit older, a little bit more mature, and a little bit more solidified in these math skills. In addition, he enjoys his math very much. I might know that at this point, the problems they're giving him are actually quite easy for him, but he's not resisting doing the easy work. He's happy to be making up these much more complicated problems in his mind and writing down the answers to easy problems on his paper. So because he's not resisting it and he's still willing to do the more basic practice that's going to be helping him reinforce writing numbers the correct direction, reinforce getting answers right every single time instead of making careless mistakes, because he's very happy to do that. That's another point in the direction that, you know what, I'm not thinking to skip him ahead right now. However, I will be very open to doubling up on lessons when we have time on that day, letting him do a couple of extra pages, which if you leave him alone with his math workbook, he will do 5 extra workbook pages. Letting him go ahead a little bit faster, I'm totally comfortable with, but I'm not at this point planning to skip him ahead into the next level of math. So I hope that this real life example and the factors that I considered, the different elements that I see as I see a child who is clearly advancing quicker than the curriculum, but then also has some elements where I see, I think this curriculum can help you. So by letting him move ahead a little bit faster, doubling up on lessons, throwing in some extra math resources that we have in our collection, extra math challenges and workbooks, we can still have a great time using first grade math, even if the level is a little bit easy for him right now. So feel free to leave me comments down below about how you have made the decision to move forward at a faster pace or to skip ahead to the next level with your gifted or advanced students, and let's talk about it. I love to have nerdy homeschool conversations with you in the comments, and I will be seeing you next time. Bye.